In the last video, I explained the reasons for side effects from medication. So there are three sort of different compartments in the body which contain fluids, and oftentimes those fluids are a place where residues have been stored, residues from medications. So we have, let's say, three different compartments. One is the blood, one is the lymph fluid, and one is inside our cells. Lymph, so nutrients, hormones, etc. travel through the blood. They leave the blood, go into lymph fluid, which bathes all the cells of the body, and then they can be transported inside the cells. So before I mentioned about the increase of energy of the cell, the ATP to kick out through active transport, drug residues, and any other kind of chemicals or toxins or residues we picked up during our lifetime from our environment. So when you kick these residues out, they're going to go into the lymph system. Lymph system does not have an active way of movement except like the blood system, the cardiovascular and the artery, etc. And it's primarily through pressure on the lymphatic system, by muscle contractions, relaxation, that pumps this lymph fluid. And most of the time people have been so inactive in their life and so tired that this lymph for people is more like a swamp than it is a river. So once these toxins come out and go into the lymph fluid, they're usually they're staying in the body, and people don't feel well when the residues are coming out from cells. And sometimes these residues in lymph, if it's very stagnant, like a swamp, they'll actually be traveling and then go back into other cells. So you've got to get this lymphatic system or fluid moving. This lymph fluid travels from our extremities to the core, to our torso, and then the lymphatic fluid drains back into the bloodstream. So this lymph fluid is going back into basically the blood. And there, hopefully, these residues will be broken down and metabolized further by the liver, and then from liver they'll go down into the gallbladder and finally into the intestines. So now we have the blood and residues from liver going into the small intestine to start with, and then it must travel all the way through the large intestine and finally be evacuated with the stool. And also the other pathway of detoxification from the blood is the kidneys. So now we have an issue for a lot of people with their intestinal movement being relatively slow, or have constipation, etc. So purification therapies added onto the IV NAD is extremely important, because we've got to get those residues out of the system, the drug residues out of the body. Otherwise, a person will never recover their whole physical and their mental health. So if we look at this as sort of like a stream of residues from the cells into the lymph, into the blood, into the intestines, and out the kidney, we have to sometimes start a little downstream. We can't start a person on IV NAD if we got problems in these downstream systems of detoxification. So our program is getting people ready to do the IV NAD. You cannot just simply think that IV NAD is the miracle, the cure-all, because you've got to get the residues out. NAD is the core therapy for recovery, not only from drug side effect issues, but also for a lot of different health. We're so in this environment, in our planet, people are so intoxicated from environmental residues getting inside the cells, and also heavy metals, etc. So getting the bowels to work better, that can be sometimes just some enzymes to digest food better, taking some fiber, various things that get the bowels moving, sometimes herbs, or we use colon hydrotherapy to really help the body's elimination of toxic residues. And then working upstream, you've got to get the liver functioning well. Various herbs are excellent. Certain IVs really help a lot with improving liver function, glutathione especially. And then lymphatic system, you've got to get the lymph moving. That means movement. We also do lymphatic hydrotherapy. That's explained in my book what that process is, about what that therapy is. It's about 45 minutes, hot and cold towels on the chest, and then hot and cold towels on the back. It's a little bit, it's important to know what the body's reaction is to the heat, what the body's reaction is to the cold. Then we use a sine wave machine, which causes gentle contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the spine to help the lymphatic pump. You've got to get that moving. And a lot of people are so dehydrated for various reasons, including not only not drinking enough fluids, but also most of the time when people are drinking a lot of water, it just goes right out the kidneys. You've got to find a way to get that water to really get from the intestines into lymph and start draining it. So that gives you an idea of the purification therapies. Another sort of storage site where the body says, I want to get these chemical drug residues out of my body. And it says, what are the least important cells in the body? Because the body says, I want to protect my brain and my reproductive system. Let's shunt these residues into fat cells, one of the primary storage sites of residues, chemical and also drug. And again, a fat cell has only a couple of mitochondria, 1 or 2 mitochondria. Therefore, their ATP production is usually very low. And you start compartmentalizing these residues in these fat cells, mitochondrial function declines. This is one of the main reasons for people who cannot lose weight. So a lot of fat cells are found primarily under the skin, in the subdermal fat layer. So that the quickest way to get these residues, to help the fat cells to get these residues out just under the skin, is to sweat these residues out through the skin, through perspiration. So the other purification therapy, which is really, really important, is the saunas. And ideally you want to be I find that the dry sauna is the best, because when you've got this subdermal fat layer is fairly deep. And if we're just applying, dry heat to the skin, a lot of the residues are going to come out through the skin. But if you do heat, that's my experience and the experience of other clients is, if you do infrared saunas and this heat is penetrating deeper than this first layer of skin, these residues can't get out. They're going to go into the body. So people usually with infrared, if they've had a lot of history with medications or exposure to environmental toxins, they feel worse after saunas. So I really prefer doing dry heat. And then back and forth, getting a good sweat up. Right outside our walk-in sauna is a shower, just 6 feet away, and they get in there and they take a cold shower. And this alternating hot and then cold, this revulsive treatment back and forth really opens up these pores, and a lot more toxins are secreted from the body. So I think I covered most of the reasons why purification therapies synergize the effects of the IV NAD therapy and should be begun before the first NAD IV.